Presented by Casho Drive. Powered by Say It Loud Media. In association with Avinashi Outdoor Advertising.
Has AI made your job easier?
Definitely change where I'm spending my time.
What is the one lesson you take away from sports?
Your mind gives up far too early than your body does.
Hosla hai to ho jayega.
Out of home is where it kind of really stood out the most.
Hello and welcome to another edition of the M4G podcast. I'm really pleased to have with us today Kedar Ravangave, somebody who's a celebrated marketing guy, but we are going to get more about Kedar in this conversation. Welcome, Kedar.
Thanks for having me here. It's amazing to have a conversation with you. It's a pleasure.
You're known for climbing, right?
Yeah.
So what are the peaks you're planning to climb this year?
So I think there are three things that I'm going to train on in 2026. I'm training for heat, I'm training for altitude, and I'm training for ambiguity. Heat and altitude are more on the fitness side. Training for high altitude is a very, very different challenge.
Correct.
Safety is a big issue. Breathing, training yourself in extreme cold conditions. I think that's what is there when it comes to my climbing side of things, literal climbing sizes.
So you're literally doing heat and cold.
Yes.
And ambiguity. I mean, that was a killer.
Ambiguity on the more on the professional side of things. So I'm building a semi-autonomous marketing function, which is completely AI native. Very proud to say that we might be the first in the world to build something like that. So to live with your thoughts and bringing these thoughts alive into a system, which is going to be a completely autonomous system, which can think, act, and build continuously and compound, is the vision that we have for 2026.
So what is the one lesson you take away from sports and apply to your personal and professional life?
I think sports has many things, right? It makes you humble. It kind of makes you disciplined. But one thing which I have kind of realized is that your mind gives up far too early than your body does. When you are running, when you're climbing, you essentially give up because of the thoughts that are there.
Correct.
That kind of surround you and they become the limiting factor. But if you're able to get past and ignore those thoughts, is when you go through that discomfort, and beyond that lies the real strength of what your body can do. And you just have to be okay about going through that discomfort. That's also applicable in what we do at work. A lot many times, talent does not deliver, not because of lack of ability or talent, but because of they lose belief in their own abilities because of the short-term pressures, because of the environment and everything else. And if you train yourself and your team to be steady while all of this happens, I think performance starts coming through.
So the ability to win those maybe 2 nanoseconds that make you the winner comes from the mind and not from the body.
Absolutely. So this was in Australia. I was doing my Ironman and this was deep in the woods. I had to cover the last 10-kilometer leg, completely exhausted. Every part of my body was aching. And the only thing that kept going in my mind was that, why am I running? Why am I doing this? It's okay. I've done. I don't have to do this. But, you know, when I let those thoughts pass and I centered myself around the present, I realized that everything was functioning.
Correct.
My legs are functioning. My heart is working properly. My mind is there. And when I finished the race, after that also I had enough energy left.
So you talked about using AI, right? Has AI made your job easier or more complex?
It has definitely changed where I'm spending my time. If you look at basic job descriptions that I'm writing for senior roles in my team, the way the expectations are changing is from building brands, driving growth, building campaigns, to building systems. we're no more in the era of building a brand yourself or doing stuff for yourself with an agency or people. You need to know, how do you interact with the system? How do you teach a system to work when you're sleeping? And there is going to be a time when, imagine all companies in a solar system, all planets as companies, and orbits around them or satellites around them as AI layers. Companies and people are not going to talk. The AI layer around these companies are going to talk to another layer of another company. And that's how the interactions are going to happen. So when two machines are talking, you can't have a human take part of it.
Correct.
That's where the role is changing for us. So as marketeers, how do you train a system and let the system operate is a very different skill. Of course, there are simpler things that we have all seen. Content has become cheaper, very easy to make. You don't have to worry about the production cost anymore. You could do all of it at a click of a button. But judgment is where the time is changing now. You have to really make a judgment of whatever comes out. Where do you want to put more money? How much do you want to put? What do you want to scale? What is it that you don't want to scale? So that's the shift that is happening on a day-to-day basis. All of that, like research, measurement, all has become like very easy. So it has made things very, very efficient for us. At the same time, it is also challenging us in the way we question what is being thrown at us, whether that is right or not. So now the functional skills have to be even more better.
Right.
Because you are
to be able to distinguish
absolutely
between what is genuine value and what is fake. The interesting thing with the times we live in is the fact that social media provides everybody a platform, right? And disgruntled consumers take to social media. I know I do. Every time I've got a problem, I say, okay, how do you handle that? Because that must be having its own pressure.
it's not pressure really. See, it's a shortcut to earning trust with the consumer. And if you see it from the lens that it's cries versus it's a conversation that a consumer is trying to have with you, if you just try and really understand and listen and solve for it, a lot many times you would have solved for many consumers who would not just put it out there. This is a lot better than a claimed response research that you would otherwise do to getting a response of what you want to know. This is a shortcut and the fastest way where we know what's not working in our service, what's not working in our product, what's not working for the brand, and then just go and fix it.
Yeah.
At the same time, it's also a great way to amplifying whatever you've done for the consumer there.
Correct.
Because it's social. So what do you do there and the way you've been able to resolve them also works in the favor of the brand. I think there's one interesting tenet that Amazon Days taught me was that anecdotes are more important than data patterns that you see in an office. And an anecdote can reveal so much because it's a lived experience than any data can. So an anecdote on a social is definitely a great conversation to have with your consumer.
So where do you see legacy marketing media moving?
What's happening to the legacy media is they're just re-platforming, right? They're just moving, they're just evolving with the times. When you look at TV's evolved to now connected TV. So now with connected TV, you could go with very, very specific segments that you want to go. You can get real-time measurement done. You can change your messaging dynamically, which is what digital media is. And you look at print is also evolved to kind of being a action that you can drive right away. Today, you want an action to be done, put a QR code. Consumers are very, 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 what do you say? They're pro using a QR code these days. So print is also evolving in that direction. I think OOH has evolved quite a lot. To our surprise, OOH was an only static medium to now programmatic digital OOH, where you're able to get your messages done, target them to specific devices, target them to specific SEC, target them to specific PIN codes. I think the same amount of segmentation, the same amount of dynamic changes that you want to make on digital are available. The core is really this. The reason why people moved to digital was Digital was able to give measurability. Digital provided great feedback loops. Digital had accountability on outcomes. That's where I think TV, OH, print are all moving to. I am surprised at the conversation that a lot of traditional big players in OH are having. They are willing to talk about impressions. They're willing to talk about conversions. They're willing to talk about, you put this here, this is the kind of BIPS improvement that you will see in the business metric, in your brand metric. That is real evolution, and that's real fighting for being relevant in the current time. We took on a project called Convert the Distribution Centers as your demand centers. And in the last 6 months, I have put close to about 250 such sites on my existing distribution centers, where these are programmatic digital OOH sites.
Oh.
This is owned and
So you're
operated by
building
Kotak
your own
network.
out-of-home network.
Yes. It's not natural for any company to build a media network.
Right.
You don't have those capabilities.
Correct.
And it takes a lot because there are permissions. The permissions are so difficult to get in India. There are 3 forces, making you run pillar to post. Having that, identifying the right material, making sure that it is connected to your security systems, and the security systems are not kind of compromised. So it's a very complex thing. But I'm a bit of an outlier. I think us is probably the last generation who's really seen the traditional media delivering in a way. It just is so powerful because I'm able to measure what is happening to my ads there, how people have reacted, people given thumbs up, thumbs down, how have the eyebrows moved, have they smiled, is all getting captured. We are able to change our ads just like how any media house would operate on slots. How many is the right number, every hour how much, which
what
area,
time of the day, which day of the week.
It's a complex system. It's a complex, same system as what a Meta or a YouTube would have at the back end is being implemented for all of these to run for Kotak. And to our surprise, the kind of impact that just these sites had in the catchment area of the branch on our deposits, on issuance of certain cards, on the way adoption changed for the bank was phenomenal. That is where it reinforced how important this medium is.
You need something which is beyond your scrolling.
Oh yeah, 100%. Especially when you know that I've put my money in this bank.
That's right.
Or not.
Yeah.
Yes.
One of your campaigns this year was themed Hosla hai to ho jayega. Were you behind that?
Yeah, I mean, I've been grateful to have the opportunity to change the proposition for Kotak, and Kotak has been extremely strong brand. I've lived in eras, and this is the era of change. So yes, we've been at the center along with many others who've helped craft this. But there's a very interesting story about this and the way we got there, right? Like the way we got to Hosla, Jayega. We've got a very interesting dynamics happening at Kotak. You've got a lot of new age digital folks working with stalwarts of finance who've been
conventional
30,
bankers.
40 years in it. And some of these conversations are very, very interesting because one comes from deep conviction of having done, and the other comes from a promise of what they've seen working. This is one of those conversations in the boardroom where we're all jamming. And then if you see India today, and perhaps that's how India has always been. Indians are very ambitious. Today's Indians are emboldened Indians. They are not looking for permission anymore. They don't want gatekeepers telling them whether you can do this or you can't do this. They just need access. They're not looking at anyone traditionally telling them that you're eligible, you're not eligible. Historically, banks have always been eligibility
The gatekeepers.
Exactly. And that frame of reference changed when we said, look, where the consumer is moving is not looking for permission anymore from you.
Correct.
They want access. You need to partner with them. They are ambitious. They have very, very bold dreams. And can you be a partner with them? That's the change that banking needs to do. That's the change that we need to be. And hence we said, हौसला है अगर आपके पास और आप अगर कुछ बड़ा करना चाहते हो, आपको फाइनेंशियल बैकिंग हम देंगे. And that is when हौसला है तो हो जाएगा came through.
And how has the consumer reacted to this campaign?
There are three metrics that we all track. One is the overall business impact of things. One is the overall brand impact and the efficiency part of it. On the brand, I think the equity for Kotak has jumped significantly. This brand has been there for long. To make a delta on equity was big. Business, of course, from a overall, there are a couple of areas that we were tracking. We could see movement happening there as well. And we did not spend a lot of money.
So what about outdoor? Out of home actually was a very visible component in this campaign.
I don't know if you've seen those creatives, but we took a very different stand on launching it on out of home. So Hosla Hai To Ho Jayega was really a relaunch of Kotak brand, right? So we did a bunch of things. We, of course, the it was more of a movement internally because there was change happening, and in that sense, when there's a change of the organization happening, and saying Hosla Hai To Ho Jayega was a reinforcement internally. Externally, it was about a new brand world. We had a completely new design language. We had a new proposition.
I love the
goggles, the infinity.
The infinity sign on the goggles. It was just... I thought that
DOOH
was brilliant.
Out of home is where it kind of really stood out the most. So when we picked out of home, we didn't want to do a lot of just cluttered message, right? Of course, it's an impact property, we all know. So our strategy there was to just put out real consumers with the infinity goggle. And infinity is nothing but, infinite possibilities of us partnering together on your dreams. But out of home really gave a platform to all the consumers who've had those real journeys where impact had happened with them in their life because of Kotak, and we put them onto.
So those were real consumers.
Yeah. They've had across content on Hosla Hai To Ho Jayega has been real people. We have not taken any extraordinary heroes.
So if you had to list 3 reasons, you talked about, out of home and how it's important for BFSI. But if there were 3 reasons you had to put down, what would those 3 be?
I think trust, context, intelligence. Trust because the physical nature of out of home makes it credible. The fact that it is, again, in a real world for me, when I'm moving around, I'm able to see it. I see a bank signage, I see a bank office somewhere, I see an ATM somewhere, there's ubiquity. There's also a sense of anything goes wrong, it's right around me, I can go and do that. That's context in which it is there. And the third thing is really intelligent, right? Like if OH does not evolve into being smart in the way you change your creative basis, what people are doing, or an ability to dynamically put things out and match the pace, I think it's already getting there, which is why it's digital OH. So digital OH kind of is intelligent. So trust, context, intelligent, all 3, the trifecta kind of makes it relevant.
So if you had the budget to do a campaign using only out of home, okay, and no other medium.
So I have 2 versions of it. One way I would do it is that make it like a living story, a narrative that the city has to say. Just take on a city. Like I said, these OH have to be intelligent. So the moment you make all the OH dynamic and a narrative with the consumers are kind of putting it out by themselves, I think it'll be a beautiful world where the entire story, the entire consumers are the narrative. And the medium becomes just a medium in the real sense, where they kind of put out their stories and take it. I think that would be beautiful to see how it pans out. I think it'll be probably first in some way. The other extreme is that you just take one site, then blow it up on the net and make it look like viral. So what's happening today, where you put up one site and show that, okay, it's done here and all that. That's another extreme of things where you pick OH and then put out that as your campaign online.
So you've always been a believer in out of home, or is your banking stint making it a more stronger commitment?
I think bank has reinforced my conviction, and in a way has also given me means to expressing what it can really be. I spoke about this, I think, a couple of years back in one of the forums where I said that OH is lacking because it does not have measurement. And if I had to change one thing, I would bring in measurement in it. And when I built the system at Kotak, one of the biggest place where I spend a lot of time was measurement.
My last question to you is, if you had a 1 month paid vacation, okay, no restrictions on budget, 1 month away, where would you go?
For me, I'm a mountain guy. I love being in the remote location. So I would perhaps, of the 1 month that I get, I would spend more than half of my time in the Himalayas. It just makes you realize you're so small in the larger scheme of things, and also a great way in which I get to reset everything that I do. I think mountains and Himalayas ground me. And the balance 10 odd days I would spend in a global city, exactly the opposite. Probably pick up a New York or be in Mumbai somewhere, just observing people. It's perhaps the perceptions that you carry about a lot of things. And the moment you kind of strip all of that and just see it as that, it's exactly that.
It's been wonderful talking to you, Kedar. Thank you so much for your time and your insights and your sharing. And to our viewers, thank you for tuning in to this M4G podcast. We would love to have you subscribe, like, and share. So if you liked what you saw, there's much more coming your way. Thank you for being with us. Thank you, Kedar.
Thank you. Pleasure is all mine. Thanks for this.